Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. We have Karolina is going to come and talk to us, give us some wisdom as to how she got to where she is today. I'm going to let her introduce herself. And as you know how we do it here at Threads of Enlightenment, we get a chance to go back and see the journey, how they became who they are today. So, welcome to Threads of Enlightenment. And I can't wait to hear your story. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Ken. So, my name is Karolina Rzadkowolska, and I'm an alcohol free life coach. And I'm also an author with a book coming out on January 4th entitled Euphoric, Ditch Alcohol, and Gain a Happier, More Confident You. Pre order is also
Nice.
available, so I'd love to talk about that a little later. But basically, I help women make alcohol small in their life. And not
Mhm.
only does that produce more health, more happiness, it also gives them the confidence to really look in with themselves and discover, what do I want most on this
Mhm.
planet? What do I want to do? It takes them away from this immediate gratification and actually has them yearning for bigger questions of, where do I find fulfillment and meaning in my life?
Mhm.
And so I like to say that they take a break from alcohol and go after their bigger dreams instead, because they find those deeper answers to those kind of questions. It's this
Nice.
beautiful, beautiful journey that I walk women through. And the thing that I think differentiates me from some of the other players in the alcohol space is I'm not necessarily talking to the heaviest drinker around, right? I mean, there's
Mhm.
so much that we've heard about that type of a problem. There's so many different programs for someone who's really, really, really has a heavy, severe drinking problem. I like to talk about the mainstream. And I think
Mhm.
that's what was really missing in our society right now. We're not really talking about the habits and the conditioning and some of the status quo behaviors and patterns that a lot of adults have picked up, but
Mhm.
isn't necessarily someone sitting on a park bench, in
Yeah.
Central Park with a brown paper bag. So why do like talking about the mainstream is really where my jam is, because I kind of found myself struggling with the question of whether or not I had a problem with alcohol, because in many cases a lot of my drinking looked normal, right?
Mhm. I'm laughing because a friend of mine, she and I had this conversation a few days ago, and she was telling me that she wasn't considering herself an alcoholic because there was just only one bottle from a hard day's work.
You see, and that mentality, honestly, it's what we've been trained to think of
Yeah.
alcohol. So that's not one's fault. I was stuck in that same mentality, but it ultimately stops someone from making any progress, because
Mhm.
if you're not that bad or someone's worse than you, then the habit can continue, right?
Mhm.
And so I like to ask a different question. Not, do I have a problem? Is this overtaking my life? I like to ask a different question. And that is this making me happy? Is this
Mhm.
habit making me happy? And it doesn't matter where you fall on the quantity of drinks
Mhm.
to find your truth to that question, right?
Mhm.
And so, personally, I started drinking as a teenager, right? And
Mhm.
I was introverted and shy. And so when I started drinking, it was almost like this magical elixir for me. I was
Mhm.
like, ooh, I found something that can make me more extroverted at parties. I can be more confident. And so I started this habit, obviously socially. I think most of us adults do start socially when we are younger, whether it's through parties or socializing,
Mhm.
and I kept up with it in my 20s, and it's something that, I partied pretty hard when I was
Mhm.
in my college years. But then as I grew up and I got a job and I got married and I kind of settled down, I tried to tone back the drinking. I really tried to limit it, and so
Mhm.
I relegated it only on the weekends, right?
Mhm.
And so I was very healthy and mindful. By the time I turned 30 years old, I drank green juices, I did yoga, I did meditation, and yet every weekend I would drink. Sometimes I would
Mhm.
overdrink, sometimes I would let myself down, and it felt like it all came crashing down every Monday morning. Every
Mhm.
Monday morning I woke up feeling so low, so depressed, just so behind in life, like I was always erasing that progress I was trying to make during the week.
Mhm.
And I kept feeling stuck with that question, do I have a problem? Do I have to go to AA? Do I have to call myself an alcoholic? And I would look around me and I would tell myself, well, I'm literally drinking the very similarly late to all of my friends
Mhm.
socially. Like, I'm not going out to the bars on a random Tuesday. It's on the weekend. And so I couldn't answer that question. I couldn't figure out whether I had a problem or not. All I knew is that I felt internal turmoil about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept pushing that to the back of my mind for years and years and years and years. But it
Wow.
was like, it was honestly trying to drink less, trying to make alcohol as small as possible in my life was something at the forefront of my mind for a long time. It took up so much mental space,
Mm-hmm.
so many rules I made for myself, so much even just worrying about it. Like, okay, I was invited out for, maybe sushi with friends on a Thursday. I have to worry because on Friday I have a meeting or something. So it just always had so much mental time in my brain.
Yeah.
And I was sick of it. I just got sick of it. There wasn't a rock bottom. There wasn't like an episode of, a DUI or just, something crazy like that. I just got sick of how much mental time it was taking on my brain.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of started questioning and asking myself, like, I'm a smart lady. Like, I had these dreams when I was a little girl of doing so much more with my life. Like, where did all that go?
Mm-hmm.
Where did all that creativity and potential go? And I think it was that deeper yearning that really started me to, start being a little bit more rebellious and telling myself, even if this doesn't look like the problem I see in the movies or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have permission. I'm going to grant myself permission to really take a look at it. And
Nice.
so what I started with was honestly just a break from alcohol. My first break was dry January. It's a big thing in the US, the UK, maybe some other countries are picking up too.
Mm-hmm.
Where really you just take the month of January off from drinking. The holidays are kind of crazy for most people and
Mm-hmm.
you really reset over January. And so to me it was like a great excuse, like, oh, I get to do dry January. I don't have to explain this to anyone. I can
Yeah.
just I can just kind of do this privately for myself. And I honestly started to fall in love with how I felt without
Wow.
alcohol. I
Nice.
loved the early mornings. I loved how deep and rich my sleep became. And
Mm-hmm.
I loved myself like finding fun in new ways. Like I remember playing with my niece more often and playing board games with my
Oh,
husband.
that's
And
awesome.
there was like this wholesome quality to it that I really loved. I felt so much integrity within
Mm-hmm.
myself because every day I kept the promise to myself, instead of breaking it, which
Yeah.
is can
Yeah.
be so disruptive to someone's self-esteem. And, after dry January, I liked it so much, but I didn't really think I could continue. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was almost like I was following this code, and the code says normal adults drink alcohol. Therefore, if you want to be a normal adult, you must
Must
drink.
drink it.
And so I drank again in February, but this time the contrast to what I had experienced in January was so sharp, so vivid, so the opposite of what I wanted to feel. Like
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to read and journal in the evenings, not be buzzed,
Yeah.
watching
Yeah.
TV. I wanted to have this deeper kind of spiritual and healthy lifestyle. And so the contrast was just so mind glaring to me that I decided to take another break then. And I honestly, it's gotten so good, so amazing. Life has gotten so fulfilling,
Mm-hmm.
so big and beautiful that I haven't looked back since.
Wow.
And, I shared with you earlier a little bit about this book. I remember as a child, I was a little girl who her only biggest dream was to write a book. I wanted to be an author so badly.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, by the time I became a drinker, I basically stopped writing. I used to journal when I was younger. I used to write short stories and poems. And when I became a drinker, it kind of just dried up. I just stopped writing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just believed it's not going to happen for me. It's not in the cards. I have New Year's resolutions to write more often, and it just didn't happen. And that first year alcohol free, not only did I launch my business, not only did I launch a podcast, not only did I run a half marathon, I also wrote the first draft of my book, which is coming
Wow.
out now. And
Congratulations.
so it was just this culmination of like that mental space that was being taken up by alcohol, no
Mm-hmm.
matter whether the consumption level itself, but just that stress over it, that thinking about it, that, worrying about it, that left behind this beautiful, beautiful space for me to actually manifest and go after my biggest dreams.
That's a beautiful story. I love to hear it was your passion that saved you, your passion for more. I know in many cases, I would say about 98% of us, we crash. We go all the way to the end. But it's really good to hear someone that the desire for that better life kept you, because I have that same conversation with so many of my friends, because we would be so good on the weekdays, and then we would go and party on the weekend. Friday night and Saturday. Sunday was, I didn't want to talk to anyone. It took me about 3 days. When I was younger, I was able to do that, but as I got older, I saw that mentally, my body, and all the things, and I kept asking myself, why am I doing this? I know several of my friends that we were together, we all kind of made this pact that we would help each other to walk through those things on a weekend, and we used to we replaced it with going boating and picnics and all the different things like that, that we would just play all these other games. And most of us are still not drinking like that at all. So it was good to hear your story that you didn't crash and burn like some of us do in our party days. So, but congratulations on the book and the fact that you're able to be creative in the sense that allowed that aspect of your personality to come forth, and you started your business. So now that you've started your business, as far as reaching out to people and helping people, how did you put that piece together? What happened to say, okay, let me go ahead and start it, versus, okay, I'm just getting to hang out on the weekend with more family member, more time and whatever? What made you zero in to go, you know what, let me put this into a business format?
That's such a great question, and thank you for sharing some of your experience. I think the weekend warrior lifestyle is really prevalent in our
Yeah, it
society, and
is.
so it's not like our fault. It's literally what we've been conditioned to do. It's how our society functions, and it's
Hmm.
just such a breath of fresh air to find people um, finding something that brings them so much more joy,
Yeah.
connection, peace. That doesn't turmoil up their brain so much. But with my business, I think it's about threefold. So first of all, alcohol is my Achilles heel. Whether or not I relate to having a heavy drinking problem or more in the middle, it was still something that I always let myself down about. It was something that, like, my best of intentions, it got away from me. Like, it
Hmm.
was that Achilles heel for me. And so when I took a break from alcohol, all of a sudden I'm doing something I've never done before. I had been drinking since I was 17, at least every
Wow.
weekend, right? So at least once a week ever since I was 17.
Wow.
And so the very first time I got to my first weekend or my second weekend without drinking, all of a sudden I'm doing something I've never done before, and I'm like smashing it,
Hmm.
like I'm going 14 days without alcohol, and then 20 days and then 30 days and then 50 days. And you get to like 50 days without alcohol, not only are you proving your own best and going further than you've ever gone, it's also probably the most that anyone around you has ever, gone without alcohol,
Hmm.
and especially in typical social circles.
Yeah.
So you start to feel kind of like a badass. You're like, I'm smashing it. I'm doing it. I'm finally a master over my Achilles heel. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, he doesn't control me anymore. And I think that confidence starts spilling over into other areas of your life. And so there was so many limiting stories that I had. I thought I had to drink to fit in. I thought I had to drink to be social. I thought I had to drink for whatever reasons in our society. And I started to slowly dispel those and say,
Hmm.
like, you know what? No, I can actually practice socializing sober and get better at it and get good at it and get
Yeah.
confident in my skin and start defying these limiting beliefs I had been telling myself. And so when I topple over a lot of the limiting beliefs I had about me and my relationship with alcohol, all of a sudden it started to beg the question of, what other ways was I limiting myself in my life? What other stories had I believed or picked up that aren't true?
Hmm.
And so one of the stories I picked up a long time ago was that I'm not cut out to be an entrepreneur. So I had actually worked in higher education, and I was in our business school, and we actually helped other students launch their businesses.
Wow.
And, there's this culture around it. It was very like Silicon Valley-y and startup-y, and you had to be like a tech genius about it and get
Hmm.
venture capital. And all those kinds of things were like, that's not me, this like shy foreign kid. Nope, I just can help other people do that.
Yeah.
So I had this vision in my head of what entrepreneur is, and that wasn't me. So I never even, begged that question.
Hmm.
But it was changing that relationship with alcohol that started to ask, well, why not me?
Hmm.
Why couldn't I do this,
Yeah.
right? And so that's kind of number one. But I think number two is, alcohol is so normalized in our society, and so there's no like, it doesn't surprise me, that like you and your friends also had this like weekend kind of habit. It's
Hmm.
literally what most social circles do. It's
Yeah.
such a normalized part of our culture. And yet we think of it as the epitome of fun. We think of it as the epitome of
Yeah.
the weekend.
Hmm.
What I think that does is it robs us of the opportunity of discovering what truly brings us joy,
Yes.
organic joy,
Yes.
what truly makes us feel happy. And there's so many deep, pleasurable experiences that, like you said, you found picnics and boating and all these beautiful things that like are so much more fun than sitting around on the couch drinking a few drinks.
Hmm.
But it also for me begged a deeper question, like why was alcohol the most, like why did I look forward to it so much on that weekend? Why
Hmm.
was my life so unfulfilling? Why was the week something I wanted to just get through as
Yeah.
fast as possible? And I realized that I had felt very unfulfilled in my career, and that,
Hmm.
I did have these dreams. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be my own boss. I
Yeah.
wanted to travel the world. I wanted to make an impact. None of those things were happening when I was a drinker. And so that confidence first gave me this kind of deeper questioning of, what do I really want most in my
Hmm.
life? What do I want to do on this planet? How can I make a difference? How can I bring more meaning into my life? And so I married that question by, really discovering that I think I have a gift to help other people. I have a challenge I've overcome, and that I can help the woman behind me. And so then the third part to, launching a business for me was, I changed my relationship with alcohol in a matter of months. Like,
Wow.
not only did I not drink the beverage, like put alcohol to my lips, I completely transformed my mindset around it. And
Wow.
I think that that's something that I found a little unique
Hmm.
to my experience compared to some of the other books I had read. Like, some people still bemoan to themselves, like, oh, I can't drink. I'm an alcoholic. I can't drink, right? It's this sad story that they are not allowed to drink, and I had completely lost my desire for alcohol.
Hmm.
And what I had done is that I had looked into my mindset, not just changing the behavior, because that can sometimes leave behind a vacuum of deprivation, when you
Yes.
just change the behavior.
Hmm.
I had to change the mindset of, why did I come to believe that alcohol gave me benefits, pleasure, or comfort? And
Hmm.
all of those reasons that I had believed, I needed to debunk them. I needed to
Yes.
prove
Yes.
to myself
Yes.
that none of them were true, that they
Hmm.
were not fundamentally true. And some of them I found were actually scientifically not true. So, for
Yeah.
example, a lot of people come home from a stressful day, pour a glass of wine because they
Hmm.
believe it relaxes them.
Yep.
Now, alcohol actually, because it's a depressant,
Stimulates
your
and
body has this
depressive.
counteracting
Hmm.
system to counteract alcohol in your body. So it releases stress hormones. It
Yeah.
actually releases cortisol, adrenaline, and dynorphin in your body. So, on a physical level, your body actually gets more anxiety and more stressed out after
Hmm.
drinking alcohol. Plus, it's this toxin that your body has to now detoxify. So,
Detox.
your body's working on overtime.
Hmm.
So in no like physical way does it actually like relax you, right? Like,
Yeah.
it actually induces more stress and anxiety in the body. It just feels relaxing in the first 20 minutes because it's numbing all your systems down.
Hmm.
So like that was one belief, for example, that I completely demolished just by learning more about science.
Hmm.
But there were other ones. I mentioned earlier that I was an introvert, and I believe that alcohol made me more confident. And so that one was really a self-limiting belief I was telling myself,
Hmm.
that I needed an outside substance
Yeah.
outside of me to turn on my confidence. Like,
Yeah.
that makes no sense,
Hmm.
And it limited me because it made me think that I am not enough on my
Hmm.
own
Yeah.
without that beverage. I am
Hmm.
not interesting enough. I am not charming, whatever it was. And so I really had to work through that through personal growth. I had to practice being comfortable in my skin. I had to practice socializing without alcohol. I had to come to believe that alcohol actually made me more insecure over
Yeah.
time, not more confident. And that
Hmm.
the only way to find true confidence is to find it within yourself and find the competence that you need to be confident.
Yes.
So there was another limiting belief that I completely changed, right? And so we all have all these reasons why we like to drink,
Hmm.
and I'm basically toppling every single reason down fundamentally in my mind so that I'm literally left with no desire at the end of the
Hmm.
day.
Hmm.
Alcohol is not appealing to me. I
Yeah.
haven't had a craving in 4 years. Like, it's just about as appealing as drinking car fuel. I'm so over it. I have so much bigger things to do with my life and my time, right? And so the process that I uncovered and discovered, and obviously I learned from a lot of different other teachers
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
other personal growth leaders, but I had really I felt like this works. I need to
Yes.
share this with other people.
Hmm.
And that's also the third reason why I launched the business, is to, really provide a framework that can literally change someone's neural pathways in their brain to no longer have any struggle around alcohol, but to
Hmm.
lose their desire for it. And that is so freeing. It is such a
It
freedom,
is.
to
Yeah.
be ultimately in charge of your own desires.
I think your story is a beautiful thing because it speaks to the normality of our society, or the perceived normality about our society. You think about people, how many hours you spend at work on a weekly basis, and then you come home, you get drunk, and you spend the Sunday recuperating, back to work. You're 90% of people, the statistics, they are not happy with what they're doing. So you are constantly, you're living this entire life of just numbness, from morning to evening, and then the perceived weekend comes that you're partying and having a blast. It's another form of numbingness. But I love the fact that, and I tell people ask me about, what is, enlightenment. To me, enlightenment is to become a student of yourself. And I'm listening to you talk about the questions. That is the beginning of your enlightenment. When you begin to ask your questions: why? How did I get here? What are the processes, the mindset that I've acquired and deposited into my belief system that has caused me to be here? And as you begin to ask these questions, that's what I tell people is enlightenment, because you begin to strip away the facade, the teachings of your parents, of society, of your school, of your friends, and of yourself. And then when you begin to question yourself, because that is the person that where it matters. When you begin to question that behavior, your mindset, because you cannot lie to yourself. You can lie to anyone else, but you can't lie to yourself. And so when you
Mhm.
begin to answer those questions truthfully, you have begun enlightenment. Because what it'll do, it'll cause another question. It'll force you to ask another question. And I'm hearing from your story that you began to approach those, what we call our demons, by having a conversation with them and doing your research and coming and sitting down with them, that particular belief. And then you look at that belief once you have that conversation and say, oh, I don't need that. Then you go to the next belief system that you have acquired, and you put your data and your information together and you have a conversation with that one. They say, oh, I don't need that. And thank you for serving me. And I tell people what I did in my case was I made them entities that I could speak to. And I remember one was guilt. And I remember when we broke up, when we severed our relationship. And it was a marvelous time. And I celebrated that because it captured me and kept me in prison for many years. But once I had that conversation and I severed that relationship, I haven't felt that feeling ever since. And so I love your story in the sense that you ask those questions and you begin to answer it, and they began to bear fruit in your life. And as a result, you began to get clarity, and your clarity now puts you on a platform where you're able to look back. And this process that you have developed, basically from me listening to you, is specific to your type friends to cause them to ask those same questions that you did with yourself. People that have normal society.
Oh, you say it so well, I think it's a beautiful journey of self-discovery, right? And we
Hmm.
learn to let go of the things that no longer serve us so that we can expand to who we were
Yes.
meant to be on this planet.
Yeah.
And like you said, like this pattern of numbing. One of the biggest fears that people have to me when they come is a little bit about, are they going to be judged by other people? Are they
Hmm.
going to be um kind of like an outcast in their group,
Yeah.
because it's what everyone's doing.
Yeah.
And you just brought up the point how, like, look at how normal society functions. Like, everyone's working these jobs that pay the bills, but aren't
Hmm.
necessarily what their calling is. And then they numb out after work or whatever and live this cycle over and over again. Like,
And
if
then
that's
die.
normal,
Yeah. And they die.
I want nothing to do
I
with it,
want,
right? Like, I'm okay
yeah.
being a rebel on this.
Yeah. You see people from that process, stress, we hear stress kills, and the diseases that they acquire from that type of lifestyle is amazing. It's amazing. And it's just like any other thing, the stress, as you said, even the alcohol continues that stressfulness that they have perceived that it numbed, and it only did that for 30 minutes, 40 minutes maybe. But that uh, stressful state, they're still in it all day, all weekend, until Monday, and here they come again.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I think it's like that stuckness sometimes that really the universe gives us an opportunity to grow, and
Hmm.
we can ignore it, we can push it down, we can keep living in the life and the cycle. But I love to position this as, if this has piqued your interest, and
Yeah.
this is something that like is interesting to you, you don't have to go all or nothing with this. Like, I love to show people how they can just do it like I did it, just take a break from alcohol
Hmm.
first, because sometimes this is the easiest way, I think personally, to experience not only, I mean, the physical benefits, just the research I did for my book to show the physical benefits that happen, and personally in my own life, like my cholesterol dropped 51 points, by the way, right? And
Wow.
that's crazy to me
Yeah.
because alcohol and cholesterol are not often correlated in
Hmm.
our mainstream kind of society, and yet that's what happened to me and very many other people. They've actually proven.
Yeah.
Imagine if this was common knowledge. Imagine if everyone who is on high cholesterol medication was actually, recommended, why don't you try a break from alcohol and see what that
Hmm.
does? That's not being told right now,
No.
right? So, the physical benefits are ridiculous. Cancer markers go down,
Yeah.
cholesterol goes down, brain gratter grows in your
Hmm.
brain,
Yes.
the liver heals, all this just beautiful stuff. But then I love to really talk about, and my book first focuses on the physical, but then it's about the mental and the
Yes.
soulful benefits,
Hmm.
The mental benefits, when you are living in that stuck life, I think it deteriorates your self-esteem because you feel so stuck and there's
Hmm.
nothing you can do about it, right? Or so it feels. It deteriorates your sense of integrity and self-love for yourself. It just starts, you believe so many limiting beliefs too, whether they do come from society around you, but a limiting story of who you are and what you can do. And so when you start questioning, like you said,
Hmm.
you start to really redevelop these new positive beliefs about yourself, and you
Yes.
start to have this sense of like, I can do a lot more than I think I can. I can
Hmm.
live in a different paradigm than the
Yes.
one I had previously been, conditioned to be in. I can live a much more fulfilling life. And you find things like gratitude rushing to you, and
Hmm.
appreciation and connection and wonder and awe. And it's like rediscovering life again,
Yes.
especially with alcohol, with such a chemical properties that it does on your brain. It really does change how you see things when you go alcohol free.
Yeah.
And so I always recommend people just try a break. I think I always go for, at least 2 months because you can really change the habit and the mindset in that time frame. And my book not only shows you why you should take a break from alcohol, but then it also guides you with an 8-week plan to help someone, really not only, again, not put the drink up to their lips, because
Hmm.
there's a missing growth opportunity when you're
Yeah.
only focused on changing the habit, but really asking those questions like you said. What do I want most on this planet? What do I really need to take care of myself? And
Hmm.
how can I find more fulfillment and contentment in my life? That's more than just going out to the bar on the weekend.
Yeah.
I have this process that I have all my clients and students go through, and it's called having new experiences.
Hmm.
So I will encourage them to go to a tango class, or go to a new art class, or try
Hmm.
paddleboarding, or try just something kind of
Yeah.
they've always
Yeah.
wanted to, but just never did.
Hmm.
And they go out and they do these new experiences, and it starts just like awakening their sense of creativity,
Yes.
intuition, and maybe even if it's not actually tango that they fall in love with, it's the sense of, oh, there's a passion out there for me.
Yes.
There is a
Mm-hmm.
passion out there for me, a passion and a purpose.
Yeah.
And I just need to keep digging deeper to find the answers to what that is. And the thing that I'm proudest most of is not that I help women just stop drinking. I help women let go of that, and then they get turned on to find their bigger sense of purpose.
Yeah.
And so some of the women I've been lucky enough to work with have launched businesses themselves, really helping in their
Nice.
communities or
Yes.
solving a problem. I've
Mm-hmm.
helped women write books for the, on their own as well. I mean, like, did you know, I think it's about 82% of Americans want to write a book. And I'm guessing how many actually do is like 0.001 or something, right? These are lifelong dreams a lot of people have. And
Yeah.
so to actually take all of that energy and instead of, living that life on that cycle, to
Mm-hmm.
really harness your creativity and use it for what you want more than anything is such a fulfilling feeling. And it all circles back not just to fulfilling your own dreams. Most often than not, when we grow like that and when we find our deeper purpose like that, it is all about making a contribution back to
Yes.
society. In
Yeah.
my case, I'm literally looking behind me at the woman I used to be, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm here holding out my hand for her and I'm
Yeah.
guiding her along.
Yeah.
Everything I do is with that woman in mind, and the
Mm-hmm.
woman behind me, right? And I think, to me, with a kind of a spiritual lens, it's hard to sometimes find the reasons why we go through such challenging things in our life and such hardships.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to think that the things that we overcome, the obstacles that we make it through, like, we are now able to help guide other people going through those same obstacles and challenges. And if I can help just one person, right, on the other side of the bridge, then going through the struggle was so worth it for me.
Yeah. I
And you
think
and you
that's
think of
it.
all these different.
I absolutely believe that's the reason why we go through it, Carolyn, is so that we can reach back to someone because who else is going to be able to reach back to that one? Maybe you are the person, the conduit that is being prepared for that person. And so you have gone through because why? Because, some people may say, God have led you that way so that you can reach back to that person behind you who may not be as strong as you are, that you're able to pull them up. And so you were able to save that person. So I think it is why we go through that is because we were the best candidate.
I like that. I love that way of saying it.
I think we were the best candidate to go through that. Why? Then you and I can then reach back, as you say, and I think it keeps us it keeps us humble. I think it keeps us in gratitude. I think it keeps us focused. So I tell people to appreciate the darkness, as they say, because from the darkness is where the earth was created from. And after 7 days, the creator looked at it and says, "This is beautiful stuff." And so I think as you and I create and we look at our lives now compared to where we were, and we can sit down for a second and say, "This is some beautiful stuff." And it's not that we're staying here, is that we are at this moment, it is beautiful, but our intention is still to continue creating, to creating more opportunities for the people that we feel that we want to be vulnerable with through our books, through our conversations with them, through a phone call. These are the opportunities that are given to us to be vulnerable to people, and it keeps us. I believe, absolutely believe that it keeps us humble and grateful, and in a state of thankfulness. And I think that is the key because once you are there, then when you reach back to someone, it's not done in ego. It's not something that can drive them away. They feel a certain compassion, a certain empathy, and they are able to then open up and become vulnerable so that you and I can embrace them and tell them it's okay. I think that's why we go through because we're the best candidates.
And such a beautiful way of saying it, and when I was first getting the inspiration to start my business, I have to say it was like an out of body experience. Like it didn't come from me, right? Like
Hmm.
it was divine. I remember, my whole company, my book is called Euphoric. I remember watching a sunset, and all of a sudden, like I was so in love with this alcohol free life. I was only 2 months alcohol free at that point, and something was just saying to me like euphoric. You're euphoric, right? And so the word even came to me from somewhere else. And then, the business, I remember literally sitting down with this divine inspiration, and I did more in an afternoon than I had ever done in the last 10 years, right, of moving my dreams forward. And I was like, where did that come from,
Yeah.
I truly believe that we are being led, we are being guided, we are being stretched even to
Yes.
create the legacy, but also the contribution to help other people. And it's such a bigger picture. Like you said, it's so interwoven. We are all so connected,
Yes.
and it's so beautiful. I think when we stop pretending like we don't have a purpose on this planet, or like we don't have a contribution or an impact or a legacy to make, and really step up to that call and that journey of self-discovery to find out what that is.
Hmm. I think I love your story because the principle that you have laid out is, and I hope that people are paying attention to the words that you're talking about, because those principles that you're laid out is to overcome every single issue in your life. Your field of alcoholism, because of the issue that you were battling personally, but the way by which you came out and you conquered that is exactly how you come out and conquer every other um, thing that comes up, any other uh, uh, entity that it presents itself to you through those wonderful words that is the word of disease, you know. And so uh, any entity that comes up, smoking, drinking, sexual things, whatever it is, the process by which you come forth from where you are is what Carolina is talking about. So I I'm going to I hope those who are listening to this grab a hold of what you're talking about, because it is powerful stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And, again, if it piqued your interest, like a lens of curiosity, I think is the best way to approach it. Just like you said, asking questions. And
Hmm.
maybe it isn't like you said, it's not the actual thing. It's not the alcohol. It's not the, other poor coping mechanism, but it's the tool that is meant
Yes,
to grow you from point A to point B.
exactly. It is the tool, and I've seen it over and over and over again. It was the tool that I used to get out of where I was. The aspects, I wrote a book, Threads of Enlightenment, and I told you this is what Threads of Enlightenment is all about: the personal growth that we go through, but yet after that, there have to be more. And there are lots of people that are in need, and the joy that it brings to embrace someone that is at a place where you were, um, and to tell them, all right, I'm here, I can walk with you, and that alone will encourage them and start to build up their self-esteem, know that there's someone that they can trust. um, the process, each one of those chapters that I wrote in that book, I say that they are states that we all have to visit as human beings. The first chapter, it talks about self-love. You talk about that. You talk about learning how to love and yourself, and to accept yourself, and to trust yourself. Then you talked about the other aspect that I have there was solitude, and people misunderstand what I'm talking about. I'm not saying solitude to me is a place where you get strong. That's where you ask yourself those questions. Those are the times that you investigate. That's the place of power, because you're not being distracted by the noise. the noise of society, the noise of family, all of kids, friends, parents, husbands, wives. It's that place of solitude that you have to get to for yourself, to peel away the onions and ask the questions of who you are, why you're here, and then as you get into those, and so that book is all about those chapters, the spaces, and in a short conversation with you, you spoke to all of them. The final chapter in that book was about servanthood. And you talked, and so that's what I'm saying. If someone, I beg you guys to listen to this conversation and see what she had laid out for you. She has laid out because it's exactly how you come out from wherever you are so that you can become this better human spirit that we all aspire to become. And I love your story, Caroline. I love your story. It is so sweet. It's so powerful and so um, rich. And I hope that you continue to reach out to the people and your books. I know your book is coming out in January of next year. We're going to put all that stuff. I'm going to tell everyone whatever ways we can get in touch with you, give it to me. I want to make sure that they follow you because, as I mentioned, it's not just about drinking, guys. Grab her and hold her and ask her a question about everything, and I'm sure she'll tell you.
It is. It's such a spiritual growth, and I have a chapter in my book all about the spiritual growth that you go through on this kind of a journey. But I appreciate you being on the show and being able to have the opportunity to share my story. And the book comes out January 4th, but the pre-order is available as of today.
Okay.
And when you order, I also have a ton of bonuses that come with it. So I'm offering a 31-day guide to help people. I'm also offering like just a checklist of 50 things to do like outside of drinking. Because sometimes, we think like, oh, if I don't drink or I don't do whatever I do usually after work, I'll be bored. But,
Mm-hmm.
boredom, I think, is the greatest invitation for creation. Boredom
Yes.
is the greatest foundation actually for innovation and for discovering, well, I have to go figure out some stuff. I have to go discover things that make me happy, that bring me meaning, that bring me purpose, and really experiment and delight myself in new ways other than just the status quo. But the book is, available for pre-order, and you can find it at euphoricbook.com. And then
Mm-hmm.
if you want to contact me, if you want to, work with me or go through any of my programs to really go through this mindset process yourself, you can find all the information you need at euphoricaf.com.
Excellent. Thank you. I want to thank you so much for visiting us at Threads of Enlightenment and honoring us with your story, and you've entrusted us with and your story, and you were vulnerable for us, and I do appreciate you, and thank you that you have made time to come to us, and I hope that you will continue to reach out to the people, and I am definitely going to keep an eye on you, and I'm going to call you when your book is up and running. And those
Oh, well, thank you so
testimonies
much. It
start,
was an honor.
yeah, those testimonies start coming in. I want to hear all about it.
Thank you so much. It's a great endeavor. I feel just so grateful that I really had my awakening, because I can't imagine sleeping on what I'm going through in my life right now. Like, this is the manifestation of some of my biggest dreams that I had as a little child, and I think we have one life on this planet,
Yes,
right?
you
And
do.
we shouldn't be sleeping through it. We
Yeah,
need to awake. And I love the tools that you also offer for other people to be able to do that, like solitude. I love that. That's where the deep answers come from. So thank you
yeah.
again, Ken. I'm so excited that we were able to have this conversation. And if anyone's interested in the book, again, it's euphoricbook.com.
Thank you so much. And as I promise, I will contact you when this book goes and invite you back. And you can always have a place to talk right here with us. And we appreciate you coming by Threads of Enlightenment. Thank you so much.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Ken.
Bye bye. Everyone who's listening to this podcast, We hope to continually help you to learn how to embrace moments of darkness, because it is in the darkness that we learn how to develop and use our abilities to truly see those parts of ourselves, often invisible to us, in the light. It becomes your responsibility to navigate through all of your trials, to find out who you truly are and begin your journey to loving yourself, which is possibly one of the most difficult things you will ever do in your life. To love yourself and to find the real you, but always remember to enjoy the journey. Thank you for coming by. Please subscribe, and if you can support us financially, we deeply appreciate it.